This happened to me about 2 years ago, around late December of 2020. I was 19 around the time. Me and my girlfriend were at my grandparents' place having a couple drinks out in the garage until it got too cold to stay out there. It was one of the coldest nights of the year, and there was a bad blizzard that night. We live in Canada, by the way. We both went back to the house around 2 a.m. She went into my room, and I went out in the kitchen to cook something for us in the oven. I was on my phone, standing alone out in the kitchen, when my grandma and my girlfriend both walked out into the kitchen together. It was a bit strange because my grandma is never up that late, and it was even stranger that my girlfriend came out at the same time. And the first thing my grandma said to me is, "Don't go back out there tonight. On a night like this, people lose their lives." I was a little bit freaked out because I was just about to head back out to the garage to grab something. I never told anyone I was going back out. My girlfriend and my grandma just stood there staring at me with the weirdest expressions I've ever seen, with very unnatural smiles that did seem right. My girlfriend then walked over and gave me a hug. When I grabbed her, she was ice cold. I commented about this, and when I mentioned how cold she was, her expression changed. Her smile faded, and she looked up at me with really serious, sad eyes and didn't say anything. There was something else I noticed too. She smelled like a campfire, an earthy, smoky smell. There wasn't an explanation for this, and she didn't smell like that earlier. I swear at that moment I got chills all over. There was something so off about it all, but I couldn't put my finger on it. My girlfriend whispered in my ear, "Don't go outside tonight." She walked back over to my grandma. She stood beside her with her head down and a serious expression while my grandma was still staring at me with that weird fake smile. It was so bizarre, I just stood there speechless. The wind began to literally f***ing howl outside. My grandma turned and looked at my girlfriend. "Don't mess with black magic," she said. "Nothing good is going to come from it." My girlfriend didn't say anything. She continued looking down. I stood there confused. My girlfriend looked up at me. "We have to go now," she said. They both started walking away. My grandma looked back at me for a second. "See you on the flip side," she said with that weird smile. I got another chill through my whole body when she said that. They turned a corner and left the kitchen. I stood there for a while. I didn't know what to make of it all. I decided not to go out to the garage. I'd go out and get my stuff the next morning. I stayed out in the kitchen for another 10 minutes until the food was done. I went back into my room with it. My girlfriend was in bed laying down. She got up and we put on a movie. I guess I was quiet because she asked me, "What's wrong?" I told her everything was okay. It took me 10 minutes to say something about it because, to be honest, I was still frightened by it. I turned to her and asked why her and my grandma came out to the kitchen. The second I said that, my nose started bleeding. I ran to the bathroom and got something to stop the bleeding. When I went back in the room, I told my girlfriend everything. As you can guess, she said she never went out to the kitchen, and she swore on someone's life. She was in the room the whole time. She also didn't smell like smoke anymore. We went and woke up my grandma right after, and my grandma said the same thing. She actually thought we were trying to mess with her, and she didn't believe me. We were so freaked out after this, we had trouble sleeping for the rest of the night. The part that really messed my girlfriend up was when I told her about how cold she felt and how she smelled like smoke. The only explanation we could come up with was that maybe if I went outside that night, something bad would have happened to me. Maybe the spirits of dead relatives watching over me came to me in that form so I wouldn't be scared and they could get the message through. The last part of it that made sense was the part about the black magic. My girlfriend just got a book about witchcraft from her friend the week prior. My girlfriend never opened to book again after this. She took what was said as a warning. I've been thinking about writing this story down for the past 2 years, and my girlfriend encouraged me to finally do it because maybe someone else out there had an experience like this. To this day, I still get chills thinking about it, especially the last thing said, "See you on the flip side." I've been working as a lifeguard at the local swimming pool for several years now. Calling it just a pool doesn't do it justice. This place is enormous, the largest facility in the city with 3 separate pools, an Olympic-sized pool for laps and diving, an outdoor pool with 2 slides, and an indoor pool with a single slide. As head guard, I'm responsible for everything: the chemicals, managing the lifeguards, and opening and closing the facility. I had heard stories over the years about the pool being haunted. Older lifeguards spoke of a little girl who sometimes wandered the pool areas. Lights and showers would turn on randomly. Objects would be knocked over, and sometimes you'd hear a child's voice asking to go down a slide when no one was there. I never experienced any of it, and I dismissed it as typical lifeguard folklore, until one day, things started to feel different. Abby, a co-worker and fellow head guard, told me about a nightmare she had. In her dream, she was stationed by the diving boards when a child climbed to the high dive and jumped. He hit the water but immediately began to drown. Abby dove after him, but no matter how fast she swam, the kid always seemed just out of reach. The water below her stretched endlessly. It felt as if the ground had disappeared and she was falling through an infinite depth. Desperate, she tried to swim upward, only to feel a cold hand grab her leg and pull her down. She woke up shaking, drenched in sweat. I thought it was just a dream. That was until halfway through our shift, Abby had to actually save a kid who had jumped from the high dive. He was the same age, the same kid she had seen in her dream. She looked pale and rattled, whispering, "That was the same kid." I told myself it was coincidence and tried to let it go. Later that week, I had my own encounter. The kids were doing tricks off the diving boards, competing to see who could perform the coolest moves. One boy attempted a barrel roll, hit the water sideways, and immediately began to sink. I dove in after him, but as I swam, the water around me turned ice cold. My leg felt frozen, heavy, as if it were being held by something solid. I looked down and saw a dead, gray hand clamped around my calf, dragging me into the depths. Terror shot through me, and I struggled upward, gasping for air, until I woke up in my bed, soaked and trembling. The icy grip lingered in my memory. The following day, I returned to work with a sense of unease I couldn't shake. Everything seemed normal. No floating objects, no flickering lights. Abby arrived, looking exhausted. She told me about the nightmare she had experienced after closing the pool the night before. She had been finishing chemical tests when she walked into the indoor pool and saw a fully clothed elderly man floating face down in the catch tank at the bottom of the slide. She hadn't attempted to rescue him, knowing the pool had been closed for at least 20 minutes. But when she moved to call 911, she experienced an out-of-body sensation. She felt herself hovering above her body, looking down, and saw the man standing behind her. Before she could react, a cold hand clamped over her mouth and dragged her backward into the water. EMS arrived soon after, but she had experienced something far worse than anyone could have imagined. Days passed with an uneasy normalcy. Then, one evening, as I was finishing up the water tests after the pool closed, the feeling of being watched returned. The indoor pool was quiet, too quiet. I had to add a bag of chemicals to the pool, and as I approached the catch tank, I felt my stomach tighten. Relief washed over me when there was no body in the water, but the sense of unease lingered. I left the pool, grabbed my things, and tried to arm the alarm system. The light on the panel wasn't green. A door somewhere was open. My pulse quickened as I realized it was the emergency exit to the indoor pool. I moved slowly, head on a swivel, and shut the door. No one was there, no bodies, no shadows. I exhaled, trying to calm myself, but then came a loud clang, metal hitting metal, somewhere in the Olympic pool. I froze. Darkness stretched before me. A shadow moved across the entrance. My instinct screamed at me, "Run." I sprinted to the office, grabbed my bag, armed the alarm system, and bolted for my car. As I reached the lot, I realized my car wasn't locked. I fumbled with the keys and finally got the ignition going. Suddenly, right behind the emergency exit, the silhouette of a man stood watching me. The temperature in the car dropped sharply, ice crawling over my skin. Heart hammering, I floored the accelerator and didn't stop until I was home. Even then, no amount of heater could shake the bone-chilling cold. Home should have been safe. The porch light glowed warmly, the only beacon against the night. My family was asleep, leaving the house eerily quiet. I crept upstairs to my room, passing the motion-sensing air freshener that squirted, leaving a faint floral scent in the hall. Then I heard them. Heavy footsteps coming up the stairs, slow and deliberate. They reached the top, stomped down the hallway, paused outside my room, then continued toward the bathroom. I could hear the air freshener squirt again, but the footsteps remained. Whoever, or whatever it was, didn't retreat. I locked the bathroom door and spent the night huddled inside, listening to every sound. For weeks afterward, sleep was impossible. Every shadow in my room, every creak of the house at night, reminded me of that cold grip, the water dragging me down, and the faceless presence stalking me upstairs. Even now, years later, I still have nightmares about the haunted pool, the shadowed hallways, and the icy hands reaching from the depths. So about 12 to 13 years ago, I was in my freshman year of college at Southern Oregon University. As part of almost a monthly ritual, my friend and I would drive with whatever friends we could gather along with us through the redwoods to the coast to gamble at Elk Valley Casino, 18 and over casino. My friend and I would get anyone who was curious, and we would always burn a random mixtape, blast music, tell stories, and drive through the woods and gamble. This happened many times and was always a blast. One particular night, we took a teammate of ours, we were college wrestlers, with us. Everything went as usual, and we were driving back. The road from Southern Oregon to the coast of California in the Redwoods is a small two-way highway, and very windy and isolated, at least until you get near the ocean and things open up. I was driving on the way back from the casino. My friend was in the passenger seat and our teammate was sleeping in the back seat. It was somewhere between 1 to 3 in the morning, probably closer to 3 as it was becoming daylight by the time I got home. It's a 2-hour trip. We were focused on our thoughts and I was paying attention to the road, not talking to my friend to avoid waking the guy in the back. On those windy roads, when you turn, everything in front of you is black until the headlights swing forward. While taking a random corner, I saw something large and black. This was disturbing because it was so dark outside that I shouldn't have been able to see anything at all. It looked darker than dark. I don't know how to describe it. It stood out the way deep black stands out on a black and white canvas. As the headlights moved, they lit up the road but didn't touch this thing. It stayed completely black, straddling the white line on the right side of the road. My brain was scrambling to identify it. Nothing made sense. As I drove closer, all I felt was fear, evil, and the unknown. I felt frozen. It was more than 9 feet tall, completely black, shapeless, like a void or shadow. No face, no features. I still have no idea what it was. It remains the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. It took a minute or two after passing it for me to finally speak. I yelled, "What was that?" and looked at my friend, whose face was full of terror. He didn't need to say anything. I knew he saw it too. He started yelling for me to pull the car over and got angry when I didn't. He begged me to turn around. I told him everything in my body was telling me that thing was evil and we needed to get away. The yelling woke our teammate, who sided with my friend without knowing what happened, calling me scared and telling me to go back. I pulled over and got out. I said I would go back, but my friend had to drive because I didn't want to be responsible if something happened. We drove back and nothing was there. I stayed the night in my friend's dorm and neither of us slept. It took days before I could shake it enough to sleep normally. I have no clue what I saw and never found anything similar.